So today, we're going to deconstruct a story about two guys who go looking for a little peek into another reality and end up ripping a hole straight through it. As you can probably guess, the consequences were, well, they were things they never, ever could have seen coming. This is a deep dive into obsession, discovery, and the absolutely terrifying price of getting exactly what you wish for. And this question, it gets posed to them right at the start by a being from another reality, no less. It really sets the stage for the whole thing. Our main characters, Don and Carl, are about to find out the hard way if they actually have what it takes to deal with what they've just unleashed. Okay, so it all kicks off here at the big Antipolis River. Let's meet our duo. First, you've got Don. He's the obsessive one, the guy who spent his entire life chasing these really obscure ideas. And then there's his buddy Carl, who's way more grounded, kind of skeptical, but, just open-minded enough to tag along and see what happens. So what's the big plan? Well, honestly, it sounds almost simple. The idea is to put a mirror in a stream, use the water to study the reflection, and hopefully use it as a kind of doorway. Just a quick window into another world. At this point, it feels more like a weird camping trip than some kind of reality-bending event. Now, the theory behind all this craziness comes from this concept, the assemblage point. Don is convinced that our reality is just, one possible channel on the TV. He believes if you can just kind of push on this point of perception, you can see what else is out there. For him, this isn't some fantasy. It's a science he's been studying his whole life. And then it happens. Theory becomes reality, and it is terrifying. As they're holding the mirror in the water, something pushes back. Hard. It's not the river current. The book describes it as a muscular throb coming from under the glass. It's this impossible physical presence that proves Don was right all along, and it does so by violently shattering the mirror and their skepticism right along with it. The shattered mirror, though, that's just the start. The experiment is over, and yup, something definitely came through. A creature literally made of river mud and silt pulls itself up from the bank. And just like that, the mission changes from let's see what's out there to how do we survive this? The first thing this creature does isn't to attack. It asks a question. It's not just some mindless monster. It's basically a walking philosophical problem. It wants to know why. Why would you call something like it into our fragile world, a world of breath and blood? And what's wild is Don actually has an answer ready. This is where you realize, whoa, Don wasn't just messing around. He came prepared. He whips out this old brass urn, starts chanting in ancient Hebrew, and performs this banishment ritual. The creature literally unravels into ribbons of light and gets vacuumed right into the jar. This was never just about taking a peek. And here it is, the big twist. Carl suddenly gets it. Don didn't bring that urn for protection. He brought it to capture the being. This whole trip to the river, it wasn't an experiment to see another reality. It was a harvest. He came to steal a piece of it. So they get back to Don's garage, and this is where the real plan starts to unfold. And let me tell you, the place is not a garage anymore. It has been totally transformed into a kind of temple, with chalk symbols all over the floor, and it smells like sage and ozone. Don finally spills the beans. It's all from an old book he found, The Song of the Toltecs. That creature they captured, it wasn't a monster to be banished. It was fuel. Its dense, otherworldly energy was the key to ripping a hole in reality big enough for a person to actually walk through. Using the urn, Don does it. He opens the portal, this shimmering tear just hanging in the air in his garage. And without a single word, he steps right through. Carl hesitates for just a second, and then he follows. And as soon as he's through, the rift just winks out of existence. That's it. There is absolutely no going back now. So they've arrived. They made it. But this new world is not at all what they were expecting. It's this place of just profound emptiness. It's beautiful, sure, but in this really alien, silent, and desolate way. A dead kingdom under a strange violet sky. I mean, the contrast is just staggering. They've left the damp, living world of the Pacific Northwest for this, a silent, sterile desert of white sand. And below them is this massive, sprawling city made of pure black obsidian. But there's not a single sign of life, anywhere. Carl follows Don's footprints all the way to the center of this dead city, into what looks like a great temple. But he doesn't find Don celebrating. He finds him completely broken, just sobbing at the base of this huge jeweled altar. The quest of a lifetime has reached its end, and it's a total tragedy. This was the crushing truth. Don had spent his entire life chasing a secret, only to find a museum. This magnificent city wasn't the home of gods or powerful beings. It was their tomb. His promised land, the source of all magic he dreamed of, was beautiful, perfect, and completely, utterly empty. So the goal is no longer discovery. The goal is now escape. They are trapped, literally, in a dead world with no obvious way home. But there's one small, forgotten piece from their journey that might just be their ticket out. In a moment of despair, Carl reaches into his jacket pocket and cuts his hand on something sharp. It's a shard of glass from the very first mirror they broke back at the river. This tiny, sharp object is a reminder of where they came from, and it's their one and only hope of getting back. Using that blood-stained piece of mirror as a focal point, Don repeats the incantation, not with the confidence of a seeker anymore, but with the raw desperation of a prisoner. And you won't believe it, but it works. The shimmering rift rips open one last time, offering them a frantic, last-ditch escape route. They just tumble back through the portal, landing hard on the concrete floor of the garage. The smells, the sounds, the humid air of their own world, it all comes rushing back. And their impossible journey finally reaches its powerful end. But there was a price. Of course there was. The brass urn, the key that started this whole second act, they had to leave it behind in that silent city. The portal vanishes, and the path to that other world is now closed, forever. They're home, but that bridge has been well and truly burned. And this was Don's final lesson, the one he had to cross reality to learn. He chased a fantasy kingdom, only to realize the real magic was in the messy, imperfect, living, breathing world he'd left behind. The treasure wasn't in some other dimension, it was right here all along. So the story doesn't end with them gaining new powers or some secret knowledge. It ends with just overwhelming relief. It's these two friends who have literally stared into a beautiful, empty void, finding comfort in the simple, cluttered reality of a garage and in each other. Their whole journey started because they wanted to live a story, to step through the looking glass. But after everything they went through, it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? Which fantasy worlds are maybe best admired from a distance, and what real magic are we overlooking right here in our own lives?